Hi, welcome to the Workplace Wellbeing Essentials series. I'm Mari Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Advancing Wellness. I'm really delighted to welcome you here today to this expert interview where we explore topics that relate to employee well-being in the workplace. My guest today is Leslee McGovern. Leslee is passionate about nutrition, health, and is an experienced wellness professional. Leslee's been a dedicated member of the Advancing Wellness team for the past 2.5 years. Leslee has over 10 years of experience designing and implementing corporate nutrition and well-being programs for Fortune 500 companies. She's a registered and licensed dietitian, and she has special expertise in developing health promotion environments that encourage nutritious food choices at work, at home, and beyond. Welcome, Leslee.
Thanks, Mari. I'm really excited to be here. I love to talk about nutrition in the workplace.
Wonderful.
So I'm very grateful.
Good. Well, thanks. Well, when we think about nutrition and employee well-being, physical elements are one of the foundational aspects of employee well-being. And nutrition obviously would have a lot to do with that. So the food in the workplace can influence employees throughout the work day. So I'm curious as we start this conversation, if you can talk a little bit about why should an employer care what their employees eat? Really, what are the benefits to an employer of having their employees eat healthfully?
That's a great question. And there are lots of reasons why employers should care about what employees eat. One in particular is that employees that are well nourished are productive. They feel good, they're happier, they're healthier, and they're really better able to give you their best work. That's the first reason. Another reason, of course, is that nutrition is related to every single chronic disease that you can think of. And so the choices that you make on a daily basis and the choices that you make more often are the things that are really going to impact things like your weight, blood pressure, lots of those types of chronic illnesses that are of concern to employers.
Okay. Well, and those, yes, so that certainly is a good reason for why employers should care, because that can impact not only productivity, but healthcare costs and, can probably have a cultural impact as well.
Absolutely. And another reason why they should care is because if it's important to their employees, then it should be important to them as well. So, for example, they have an opportunity to have a teachable moment about healthy nutrition if employees are interested.
Mm-hmm. Great. So when we think about healthy choices, can you talk a little bit about, so what does it mean to make healthy choices when we think about food and nutrition?
When we think about from a nutritional perspective, our experts agree really that you can't go wrong with plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, all of those types of products that you hear about. Water, another healthy choice. Those really are healthy choices. They are foods that are close to nature. They're foods that are minimally processed. And for example, if you think about something as simple as an apple, which I happen to have right here in my hand. When you have an apple that is basically in its raw form, right, just like this, that's the best way to eat it. As you start to process it a little bit, so for example, as you go to applesauce and then even apple juice, what you start to do is you lose some of nature's benefits. So the best thing to think about is whole foods. That's the best choice.
All right. That's a great way to think about that. So the less processed, really, the better is the way to think about it.
It is, really. And not all processing is bad because, for example, let's think about frozen vegetables, which may have been cut up and frozen, but they were fresh when they were put away. So you're into the freezer. So, that's a minimally processed food item. And there are certainly some frozen prepared meals that have been minimally processed as well. That's not usually the case, but there are those types of offerings.
That's great. Okay, that's excellent. So, what can an employer do to foster healthy choices in the workplace?
So many things that an employer can do. If you have a policy about food in the workplace, often organizations will have policies around meetings and catered events.
Mhm.
And essentially, that's just an opportunity to say that we will offer healthful choices as part of the offerings of everything that we do. And what does that mean? So that means if you're having a catered meeting with clients, perhaps you have a display of foods, and certainly you're going to have a fair amount of fruits and vegetables for them to choose from. I like the idea of setting up those fruits and vegetables first in the line of choices, and then you can have your variety of other foods, but you're always offering a choice that's nutritious and that's helpful. You can take it a step further. You could do little cards to label the foods, and sometimes that's important if you have any employees that have certain issues or allergies with foods. So that's something else that you can do. You could also provide, as part of this whole catering policy, you could develop some training materials for all of the people in your workforce so that they know how to make a healthy choice. This might be sample menus, it might for different types of events. So it could be a sample backyard barbecue that the organization has every summer, or it could be sample snacks for meetings. The more detail, the better, just so you give people that are ordering the food examples of things to choose.
And are there some specific resources that are available, healthy meeting guides or things like that, that are available to help with that kind of training?
There are lots of them. I love to go to the CDC's Workplace Resource Center. And then, of course, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health has a Healthy Workplaces Toolbox.
Yeah.
So those are good places to look for policy samples.
So you've talked a little bit about the policies in the workplace that they can adopt, but how do we do that in a way without feeling like, the employer is the food police?
I know. And some employers would love to be the food police, but in the end, most employers want, in this day when you're trying to get the best talent to be with you and to stay with you, you want to work with your employees and give them choices and meet their needs and their interests. So if you have a group of employees that is interested in improving their eating habits, and they told you that in a needs and interest survey, or you learned that through another type of survey in your organization, then you have an opportunity to work with employees and develop some policies and procedures and have everybody go with you. What I don't advise is that you take an all or nothing approach, because that generally doesn't work. And that generally doesn't work even with your food service provider, because you risk the chance of folks not participating in what you're offering them leaving and going out of the building. So I like to see that employers work with their employees to provide, healthful options and drive them to the healthful options through how it's positioned, how it's promoted, and then make sure that there's a little something for everyone there.
Well, that's great. So thanks so much for sharing all that with us. Anything else you'd like to add for our audience?
I think one of the things that people should remember is that there is always an opportunity to offer that healthful choice without being too forceful, and positioning it in a way that people will welcome it. And I think if you work with employees and you have an employee base that is interested in making those healthful choices, you can make that opportunity, and you can use your partnerships to actually make that happen in a positive way where people will embrace it.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for sharing your expertise with our audience today. Really appreciate
You're
your
welcome.
time. Thanks so much for being here.